Hello everyone, welcome to Business Live. Coming up in this bulletin, Bank of Ghana calls for a review of Goldbods trading model as it appeals to the Finance Ministry to consider budgetary allocations to relieve the central bank from costs associated under the framework.
But the best thing now that will be in the national interest is to look again at the trading model and to, for example, decide, should the Ministry of Finance make a budgetary allocation to take care of the costs, given that this is supporting our reserves buildup?
We will be discussing the potential impact the review would have on currency stability and reserve accumulation. Also in this bulletin, Office of the Registrar of Companies begins the enforcement of penalties against companies that have failed to file their beneficial ownership information. We will be joined by the Acting Registrar of Companies for more. Plus, passenger arrivals at airports drop marginally in 9 months of 2025, but container traffic at harbors up by 20.6%. We have more from the Bank of Ghana's November 2025 Monetary Policy Report. Details of these are more lined up for you. Please stay on. Grateful you could make time to join us here on Business Live. I am Pius Kojobaka, and looking at our stories. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has appealed to the Finance Minister to consider a sustainable financing structure for Goldbods trading model. Responding to questions about the losses borne by the Bank of Ghana on behalf of Goldbods in its gold purchasing activities at the Public Accounts Committee today, Dr. Isiama noted that support from the Finance Ministry would be crucial. He explained that Goldbods operations form a significant part of the Gold for Reserves program, which has contributed to strengthening the country's reserves.
In the case of the Gold for Reserves, as the name suggests, the objective was to help us build reserves. Now, based on the data that NA has provided so far, the evidence is clear that it is not a question of shutting it down, but it's the question of enhancing its efficiency, looking at inefficiencies that you have to take out. And that is why we went after Goldbods. I also have a table here I can give to you. You see the reductions that we have brought to bear. Madam Chair, it will interest you to know, for example, that until last year, especially the exports of the small-scale gold sector, we were just lucky nothing happened before 2025. Because there was no insurance component after those consignments land at the destination country. And we had to insist that we needed to protect Ghana, even for that 5% that had to be paid. And so currently everything is paid before the consignment is lifted. Otherwise, there has to be an insurance guarantee. So going forward, let's look at these aspects that we can fix in the interest of the country. And it calls for a unified approach. The external auditors have already been authorized, as I mentioned, by the Bank of Ghana board. The goal for all is being audited. The goal for reserves will also be audited. When that exercise is over, we are happy to sit with you to look at where there were infractions or not and what to do with it. But the best thing now that will be in the national interest is to look again at the trading model and to, for example, decide, should the Ministry of Finance make a budgetary allocation to take care of the costs, given that this is supporting our reserves buildup? Those are the type of questions we need to agree on.
I want to stay a while longer at the Public Accounts Committee, and the Ghana Revenue Authority has given an assurance that it is pursuing several avenues to meet the 225 billion cedis revenue target for 2026. The assurance comes on the back of concerns that the recent COVID-19 abolishment and the current tax reforms, which have reduced the effective VAT rate from 21.9% to 20%, could result in shortfall in this year's annual revenue. But speaking to journalists after appearing before the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Sapon, said GRA is on course of meeting the 225 billion cedis revenue target for 2026.
Let me say that the annual target that has been announced by the minister in the 2026 budget is 225 billion. And we at GRA, this is our core mandate. So we are poised to make sure that right from the beginning of this year, we are working effectively to ensure that we deliver on this revenue mobilization, because we believe that the revenue mobilization is the lifeblood of our national development, and without which the vision of the president will not be achieved. So you would achieve. We are poised to achieve this revenue and to ensure that not achieving it, but also ensure that we are even able to exceed it in a manner that allows the ministry and the government to deliver on the mandates that they have presented to Parliament for development of the nation.
Now, the Office of the Registrar of Companies has commenced the enforcement of penalties against companies that have failed to file their beneficial ownership information as part of renewed efforts to deepen transparency and accountability in Ghana's corporate sector. Joining us via Zoom to have more discussions on the back of this is the Acting Registrar of Companies, Ms. Sama Pipra. Thank you so much, Madam, for agreeing to speak to us here on Business Live. And one would want to know why it has become important for the Office of Registrar of Companies to embark on this enforcement exercise. Why now?
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having me on your program. So in terms of the embarking on the BO penalties, it's a process that we started from 2019 when the New Companies Act came into force. It was in phases, more or less. The first phase of it was to set up our institution to be able to take up the BO details from various companies. And also we moved on to ensuring that our system is transparent enough. We also went further to sensitize the public on the need to register their BO details and ensure that we are aligned globally with the global practice. And I think following last year, we issued about 2 or so press releases just to give people enough room to implement what has been asked of them. And I think we've more or less given enough time for such implementations to take place. And therefore, we are moving on to our final phase of enforcing what is contained in the Companies Act.
That's fine. So how does beneficial ownership disclosure improve transparency in Ghana's business space?
So when you give your details of beneficial ownership, you are giving the details of people who are directly and indirectly aligned with shares of the companies. It helps to prevent corruption. You give details on politically exposed individuals so that we'll be able to trace people to what they have done with their shares in the companies and whether they've acted in good standing or in good faith. Now, it also boosts investor confidence in the country. Most jurisdictions enforce beneficial ownership status, and that when they are coming to invest in countries like Ghana, they do the KYC of understanding who are the beneficial owners of companies. Now, when they don't know about some of these details, they shy away from our companies. They shy away from investing in the country. So it goes a long way of boosting investments in the country. It goes a long way of generating revenue for the country as well.
All right. So for you, what have you gathered as the main reasons companies have failed to comply?
Well, from From us, well, we are only able to just speculate that majority of the companies are not aligned with our BO processes. What it is now is companies that were registered from 2022 up to now, it is mandatory for them to file their BO. They are supposed to file their BO before they are registered in the company, in the register.
All right.
The difficulty is those who were existing on our register before then. And now I think with this implementation, people would take things matters seriously and then adhere to what is contained in the Act.
And I'm wondering how innovatively you would ensure fair and consistent enforcement of this 500 cedis penalty you are demanding.
Yes, so as I mentioned, we did the BO implementation in phases, and we aligned the BO with our existing application, where we were able to fish out all companies that have not filed their BO details, and then the penalties have been flashed across board to those companies. So it's been a fair implementation, and it's an automated implementation process.
And what becomes the repercussions for those who failed to comply with this very directive?
Yes, so we'd ensure that you would not be able to make any form of changes to your companies. You will not be able to file your annual returns, and also you will not be able to do anything pertaining to the company. Now, this penalty has been issued against the companies themselves. Under the Act, officers of the companies could be held liable for not providing the Office of the Registrar of Companies with BO details. So we intend to take that next step of enforcing the penalties against the officers of those companies.
As we wrap up the conversation, what's your review of businesses processing in 2025? How was it in 2025, and what's the outlook for this year?
And basically, at the Office of the Registrar of Companies, we were able to meet our set targets for this year. I think what really helped us this year was the intensified sensitization that we conducted last year, and we intend to pursue that as well. We intend to intensify our compliance regime as well. I think we'll be going down to do more investigations. We'll be visiting companies in person and ensuring that they are in compliance with the tenets of the Companies Act. Thank
you so much, Mr. Makpipra, the Acting Registrar of Companies, speaking to us here on Business Live. Now, passenger arrivals have declined marginally by 1.3% in year-on-year terms to 102,78 in September 2025, according to November 2025 Monetary Policy Report. And this was down from 103,387 arrivals recorded a year ago. On a month-on-month basis, passenger arrivals decreased by 10.5%. More in this report. The report pointed out that cumulatively, for the first 3 quarters of 2025, passenger arrivals remained largely unchanged at 938,210 arrivals recorded at the international airport and the land borders. This is compared with 941,692 for the corresponding period in 2024. Meanwhile, international trade at the country's 2 main harbors, Tema and Takrady, are measured by laden container traffic for inbound and outbound containers improved during the period under review. Total container traffic increased by 20.6% year-on-year to 73,648 in September 2025. This was up from 61,093 for a similar period in 2024. In cumulative terms, total container traffic for the first 3 quarters of 2025 went up by 23.2% to 647,536. This is compared with 525,623 for the corresponding period of last year. You're still watching Business Life. We have more for you after this break. Thanks so much for staying on. Let's go back to our earlier story where I told you about the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, appealing to the finance minister to consider a sustainable financing structure for Goldbods trading model. And to this end, we want to have this conversation with a banking consultant, Dr. Richmond Etuahini, who joins us via phone for us to have this interesting conversation. Thank you so much, sir, for agreeing to stay on to speak to us here on Business Live. We want to understand the reasons primarily driving the Bank of Ghana's decision to review Goldbods trading model and how this will align with the country's economic objectives largely.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the whole problem stems from how the domestic gold purchase program was structured. I think there was an inbuilt fees or commissions that has not been taken care of. So it doesn't matter the amount of gold you purchase. It doesn't matter how you do it. Because since the beginning of the program, we have incurred losses all the time, even when the gold prices were going up. It means that the governor and the central bank, the finance minister, would need to review the structure of the transaction. There is something inherent in it that would have to come out. Other than that, this thing will go on and on and on and on and on. And I've heard people are saying translational loss. No, it is not translational loss. If it was translational, since he was depreciating against the dollar gold, we would have had more profit. Especially, it would only have changed when the currency started appreciating. But unfortunately, that is why the government is saying that you need to see the finance minister to see how these things should be properly structured. I suspect that there are inherent commissions and fees inbuilt into it. So it doesn't matter how much you get, the fees would have to be paid. And the more you get a bigger component, the more you're going to get the losses. That is why the government is saying that you have to see the finance minister for them to see the whole structure. The whole structure has to be reviewed because it's a trading law. It is not translational loss. It's not foreign exchange loss. It's not a transactional loss. It's not foreign exchange losses. It is something that with the trading model from which we sign on. And so I was very happy when the governor said he will see the finance minister and see the goal and see how these things could be properly structured. Because it wasn't properly structured. Because that deal, if it was properly structured, we would not be having loss. At least once upon a time, we were having profit. But unfortunately, we need to look at it. So that's why the governor was this morning saying that we have to pay it. It's very, very critical. Other than that, all the gold, fortunately for the governor, I can speak for him. Fortunately for him, all the gold he gets, he's not been edging there. He's not been putting it there. When he gets, I think he just go and sell the gold and get a foreign currency reserve. And see, he doesn't actually lock up his gold reserve as such. Immediately he gets the gold, he go into port, sell the gold and get a foreign currency. And then come, that is why he has a huge, the reserves are not just foreign gold reserves. It's people, most of them are foreign currency components. And they sell the gold and then give up. That is why he was able to pay the energy debt and he was able to pay for the euro. If it was gold, then he would have go into the market himself. So
that's
that is not just hedging the gold as such. They go into what, sell and that. But they build, I'm sure they are building the reserves from maybe 36 to 37, 38 and all that. But
really, how significant?
Building the gold.
Dr.
Today we have about 110 metric tons, which is billions of dollars. And that would have affected the losses. That's why he's saying that this year, he wants the accountants, the external auditors to come and do their work so that he can do the actual losses that he incurred in 2020.
All right, that's fine. Dr. Etuahini, how significant are the costs associated with the domestic gold purchase program, really? And what impact do these costs have on the Bank of Ghana's financial and monetary policy effectiveness, do you think? Well,
if they are really lost, already Bank of Ghana is a negative capital institution. So if you keep on making the losses as this thing is being captured, then it is going to affect their policy-making decisions because it means that your capital is deficient. And therefore, the more losses you make, the more you become more capital deficient. That is why I'm saying that although it may not have an immediate impact on the policy decision, but in the long term, I mean to remember, the minister said this year that we are looking for a way to recapitalize Bank of Ghana. But if you're going to recapitalize and you keep on making losses, so you first have to block these losses before you even think about recapitalizing it. Because People say that if you are making losses, policy division. No. In the eyes of global, your competitors, your correspondent banks like Fed and Bank of England and the Germans, they don't see it from where we see as policy. They see the solvency as a very critical. That is why the finance minister in his budget this year said they're looking for a way, and they signed the memorandum last year with the previous government that they will need to refinance it. It may not have an immediate impact on the policy, but in the longer term, it can have a consequences on the
exactly what I want to find out. So potential impact of this, what do you think would have on Ghana's economy largely, particularly in terms of currency stability and reserve accumulation, which of course you've rightly articulated?
Well, I mean, that is why I also want to commend the governor. The governor is not hedging in the gold. He is going to foreign currency. If you check the reserves of gold we have, it is nowhere near the foreign currencies we have. So it is a strategy where you get the gold, you go into the market, sell, and come and put your balance. It means that once we are in the gold trade, we're going to have, I'm sure by all things being equal, if the geopolitics go on as it's going on, gold, as I'm told, from bullion market, is going to go to $5,000 per ounce by, I think, half of this year. If that goes that way, it means we can build our reserves up 20 billion for the next 3-4 years, 2 years. And you need to get 20 billion. Then you begin even to think of paying off your debt. Because the debt is becoming a debt overhang, especially with the euros and the other things. So if the more we can accumulate the reserve in terms of selling the gold and getting the foreign currency, the more we can go and pay some of our debt so that we come out of this debt checking or debt overhang that we have over the years.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richmond Etuahini, for your time here on Business Life. Always a delight speaking to you. Now, the growing rejection of lower denominated coins in Ghana is raising serious concerns about cash circulation, efficiency in daily transactions, and compliance with the country's currency laws. Finance expert and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amoah, warns that the trend could have wider implications for the economy if left unchecked.
Traders across markets say the 10 and 20 pesos coins slowed down transactions and no longer match today's price levels, making them inconvenient for both buyers and sellers. Responding to these concerns, finance expert and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amoah says rising prices and faster-paced trading environment are pushing many businesses away from small coins.
There's what we call a deadweight loss in using the 10 and 20 pesos coins. It takes so much time, and at the end of the day, the efforts that you are going to put into counting the 10 pesos and 20 pesos to arrive at a value, considering how much you need from that counting, be it the buyer or the seller, is not worth the effort that the sellers and traders are putting in. Over time, price level have increased, and so the unit of account that you need to transact to match a price level has also increased. Years ago, the 10 and 20 pesos could be used to buy goods and services. Now you want to ask yourself, what particular good or service do we have in the economy that one can use a 10 and 20 pesos for?
Beyond convenience, the rejection of coins also raises legal and monetary concerns. He adds that the Bank of Ghana has not withdrawn the pesos, meaning refusal to accept them violate currency laws and affect revenue generated from minting coins.
Central bank must be concerned, and it is legitimate in the sense that, one, the central bank has not outlawed the usage of 10 and 20 pesos. It is still a legal tender. So that is one. Anybody who refuses to accept it as a means of payment is flouting the Currency Act. So that is one. Two, the refusal to accept this 10 pesos and 20 pesos coin is depriving the central bank or Bank of Ghana what we call sanorage. Sanorage is the profit that the central bank earns when they print or mint the coins.
Dr. Benjamin Amoah says public education, improved coin handling infrastructure, and possible higher value coins could help restore confidence in Ghana's smaller denominations and protect the integrity of the cash system.
Thanks so much for being part of Business Life for today. I am Pius Kojobaka, but you can get stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Grateful serving you.